guys, welcome back to the No Holds Barred Network with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host, as always, the EVP of Giggles, the Heartbreak Chick, the Queen of the Indies, Tiffany. And I'm so excited for the man with many hats. I feel like that's going to be introduced today.
Too many.
There's too many hats. Our good friend Scotty Sariti, how are you?
I'm all right. What's up, everybody?
I'm so excited. You really do have many hats. I love it. We're gonna get into that. So, but guys, if this is your first time at the No Holds Barred Network, Under the Ropes is all about independent wrestling, where it's me interviewing wrestlers, promoters, ring announcers, commentators, referees, anything related to independent wrestling. We're gonna get it all covered for you guys. So I'm really excited about this one. So, but Scotty, you ready for all this fun stuff?
I am very ready and very excited.
First of all, how's the weather by you? Because like we've been hit in like New York. And...
I think it's still snowing. Yeah, it's still snowing.
I got a little bit of snow too. It's not sticking now. So
Thank
like
God.
it's just
I've
like
had enough.
Right? Just like over
the
this.
Northeast, man. I hate the weather in the Northeast.
It's been rough. And I mean, shout out to the people in Texas, because I really feel like bad for them. They don't know how it is. And for people that I've talked to, I'm like, yeah, you couldn't live on the East Coast over here. So, but you know, that's what it is. So anyway, all right, let's jump into this. So again, like I said, you have many talents, but for people that don't know you, how did you get into professional wrestling?
So I started watching WWE. I believe it was WWF at the time, around the time I was in third or fourth grade. Independent wrestling I had started watching till about 2014. My friend Ness, Everett Cross, he and I had known each other for a long time, pretty much my entire life. And he took me to a local show out our way. And from then on, I was pretty much hooked just watching him wrestle. And the first deathmatch show I went to was the first Nick Gage Invitationals, and that was the one that made me like want to get involved in some aspect in professional wrestling.
Oh wow! Was there like a particular match, or like was it as a whole?
I think it was just the whole thing. I had been in a couple deathmatch groups on Facebook, and I'd talked to a couple of the guys who were on the card, so I went in already at least having a conversation with Masada and with Corporal Robinson.
Oh, wow.
And I essentially just spent the day hanging out with them until the show started, and then once the show started, it was pretty much off to the races for me. The first match was the late great Nate Hatred against Low Life Louis Ramos, and I was kind of into it from there.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Wow, pretty
very
cool.
Good show.
Pretty cool. So where have you done, like, for people again, where have you done commentary and ring announcing, and you're also a manager too, like where have you begun your journey?
Well, the very first show I worked was very not good, so I tend to kind of skip over that completely because it's something that I could sweep under the rug easy enough. It was not, like, top to bottom, just not a lot of good vibes with that show. The first show I tell people I worked was actually Hybrid Wrestling in Chester, Pennsylvania. It was the first event titled A Nightmare on 9th Street in October of 2016. And that's when I started doing commentary. I had a tryout on the pre-show for the September show, which I can't remember what it was called, but it was a banger card top to bottom.
Wow.
And then ended up doing the October show in full with MLJ. And then the following month, I was reached out to by Anthony Iovino of Pro Wrestling Magic, because I've been wanting to get involved there for a while. It's a hometown company, if you will. The Richfield Park Knights of Columbus is 10 minutes from where I grew up. And the message said, "You ever ring announced before?" And I said no, because I hadn't up to that point. And he said, "Bring a suit, you'll be fine." And November 2016 is when I started ring announcing. Oh. And the first show I ring announced had guys like Keith Lee, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds, Colt Cabana. Like, I really got kind of like thrown into indie wrestling kind of without a net. And from there, VOW in West Virginia, H2O, of course, Unsanctioned Pro, of course, Synergy in the early days, Pro Wrestling Magic, ICW New York, and ICW No Holds Barred. I've done a couple shows for GCW. I've been kind of like all over the place as much as I could be.
You travel a lot.
I try to, because I hate not doing anything.
Right.
Because not doing anything leads to things like I'll get either complacent or I'll just get lazy. And neither one of those things is acceptable to me anymore. So I kind of like, I've done this longer than I was in college. So
wow.
This is something that I'm kind of like sticking to in that regard.
That's crazy. I just went to Pro Wrestling Magic for the first time. I had fun. It was nice with like a whole bunch of people. Like I already knew a whole bunch of people, but it's fun. Like I love the independent scene where it's got that family oriented feeling at a lot of these shows. You definitely get that like a lot. I'm sure you feel that at a lot of shows. So, but were you like nerve wracked like the first time like you actually got in the ring and did ring announcing?
Oh, I could barely form a sentence. It was really, really bad. And the venue was actually a high school up in Bergen County, New Jersey. And I kind of just I hung out with Ness, of course, and Pinky Sanchez, and just kind of just like hanging out and being chill and not really worrying too much about it. Like I went around, I got everybody's information ahead of time,
right?
All that stuff. But it was the lead up to being there at call time, being ready too early, and also not really having my mind taken off it,
right?
For lack of a better explanation. But then I did it and, got positive feedback the first time I did it. And then I was supposed to do it at the December show because the December show was the big deal. It was like their WrestleMania. Kingdom Come, it's called. And I had to pick somebody up from the train station in Jersey City. I can't recall who it was, but I remember getting the message while I was still waiting for them to get from New York to New Jersey, and then also trying to figure out the best way to stop at home, get everything I needed, and get there in time, which didn't happen, which was a little bit of a bummer. But by then I had also like kind of known how, if you're too late for the booking's obviously not going to be yours, that type of thing. Same thing as it would be in any job. If you're late after a certain number of times, they just don't use you anymore. So I was assured I'd be used again, and they were like, it's fine, you just had too much to do today. And then by January, I was sending my footage out to VOW to try to get booked there, because I have no idea who I think I am.
So how did you like go transition from that into commentary?
I always had both in my back pocket if I needed to use them. Some places would prefer my ring announcing to my commentary, and some places vice versa. For example, I had done a bunch of ICW shows. I think I only ring announced on one of them at the Richfield Park Knights of Columbus, and I never had a problem with it. There's a lot of really great ring announcers and or commentators out there, and what I do is not for everybody in any aspect, and I appreciate that and I understand that. So it was always just kind of something that I wanted to be the guy who everywhere he worked was doing both. And then I realized, that's not really realistic. So we'll see what happens on an individual basis.
Right. I've done commentary once.
It took some doing to get good. Like I was...
No. I couldn't do it. I give you kudos.
No, I give Emil all the credit in the world, because once Emil explained how he approached professional wrestling commentary, that made it a lot easier for me. And because he was like the first partner I had, it was one of those things where I very much consider him a mentor, because even when I was starting to ring announce, he's the one who gave me advice.
Right. He's great. He's definitely great. I love him, and even like with him with Nick Gage together. Like who are
I've never heard him have a bad partner.
No. Who is like the dream team that you would like to work with?
I have to say I've been very blessed to work with a lot of very talented people. I've worked with Righteous Jesse. I've worked with MLJ. I've worked with various wrestlers. Devin Moore is actually a better commentator than I even gave him credit for, because I was talking to him before the show and I was like, okay, listen, you can't you need to approach this as carefully as possible. and he was giving me shit because I was like, oh, I don't know how this is gonna be. And then he did the first half of the first show on the doubleheader in January, and people like he was beloved on commentary almost immediately.
That's so great.
So it's always the ones that surprise me that like I've done commentary with Effie. Effie's great at commentary. I would do commentary with Effie literally anywhere. Be with Effie in general, literally anywhere.
Of course, he's the
I
best.
love that man.
He's the best. Who doesn't love him?
But there's still, I have like a short list of people that I haven't worked with yet, and Mose from Action Wrestling is one of them. He and I speak about it frequently because we're like, hey, if you know a promoter, and I know, like I've name dropped him and Chad French from the Midwest territory. Chad, Jesse, and I were actually part of the commentary team at Unsanctioned Pro 9, which was live on IWTV. So that was a really fun team to be a part of. Dream team, like I can't think of.
Come on, it's got to be like top of your head. Like if you could work with somebody, like who would be like the ideal to work with? Maybe it's Effie and somebody else. Maybe it's
it could be it's definitely like Effie and somebody else. But I'm also like, I mean, I have no problem with a rotating third on commentary of everybody. Like I really don't like. I don't really narrow it down, mainly because, especially with like how indie wrestling has been the last year or so, like getting used to anybody isn't smart, because there might be a day where someone gets sick and isn't there, and you're in there on your own. You need to be able to be like anything on a dime.
Right.
And I know in experience when like things have gone wrong like that, things tend to stay wrong if you don't keep a level head. So I just kind of, let's see how today goes. And take it from there.
That's a good attitude to have. What's like your favorite part about doing all of this, whether it's ring announcing, commentary, or
a lot of it's seeing my friends. I was very blessed to come up in a very diverse locker room from the jump. So like when I was at Hybrid, there were guys there like, Devin Moore, Matt Tremont, people that I'm still connected to and still friends with to this day. But it also had guys like Human Tornado and, people that you didn't see regularly enough. So when I get into a locker room and it's people that I haven't seen in a while, I'm like very, very excited about that. I love going to Unsanctioned mainly because like it's all my people.
Right.
It's all people that I either have known or know of. And when I go in there, I know there's at least 15 people in the locker room I can turn to. If, someone decides to be stupid, I could just give them a look and the situation's taken care of.
Right.
And it's also like, being able to, we live in a very strange era where we're able to binge watch professional wrestling for the first time at no effort, several different places across the internet. Being able to be a small part of that and that progression is like really cool to me.
That's awesome. So actually this question was from a friend. They were like, do you plan to ever become a wrestler? And if no, why?
God, no, because my body hates me. It's being done so well by other people.
Right.
I don't need to risk ruining any sort of hype or mysticism it may have. I'm perfectly fine where I am. I've taken bumps, I've taken hits. Brendan Kirk cracked my head open once. I've done enough to know that like I'm happy at the spot I'm at.
Is there anything that you would like to do that you haven't done already?
Like I haven't booked like an actual like storyline series of shows yet. Have like 4 shows in 6 months and call that like a season, if you will, and just have one continuing story arc happening for the company, and then have like the every 6 month storyline happening on the underside. I haven't done anything like that yet, and that's definitely something that I've been thinking about a lot, but also not having the money to really trust myself enough to go into it.
Right. All right. Who's been some of your inspirations for this?
I'm gonna be real. I don't really watch wrestling.
No?
And I know that sounds like something, shitty and bitter people say. If that's the case, then I guess I'm shitty and bitter, but I can get burnt out on it too easy.
Right.
And as someone who actively seeks out bookings and is seeking out work in new markets, like I have been busting my ass trying to get a bunch of shows on Tampa, so I'm not just flying in and flying out like immediately. And if I were to get too burnt out, again, I would just not want to have anything to do with it for a while. And I'm at a point, especially now, that I have to like work at it. I have to keep it going, otherwise it's not going to be. It's gonna halt almost completely.
Right. So, I mean, I get it. Like, sometimes you can get burned out with all the wrestling that's out there, because I feel that sometimes as a fan, and it's like, okay, I got to come back a little bit to reality and do some other things as well.
7 days a week. It's always on. Yeah. I can turn on any TV channel or open the internet anywhere, and there's professional wrestling. I did a lot of studying when I was younger, and there's still stuff that I'll actively seek out. Like, I'm a huge fan of Daisuke Sekimoto, so if he's doing anything, I'll tend to look and see what he's been up to. Or Kenji Muto, the Great Muta, another one of my all-time favorites, and I'm just like, no, I need to at least like pay attention to this.
Right.
But I very rarely am sitting down watching a full show unless I'm like taking notes for commentary after the fact.
Right. That makes sense. What's been your most favorite moment during like commentary and ring announcing?
If I were to give a funny moment, it would be the fact that I got to do like JR typical Undertaker commentary when Hot Dog Starks wrestled as the Bundertaker in Pittsburgh. That was a good one. I introed Danny Havoc's last match at H2O, which meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
I had only worked with him twice previous, where I had either given him an introduction or commentated his match, and we had known each other. I had been going to H2O shows. There was nothing for me at the time, so I just kind of went to hang out.
Right.
So we had seen each other very frequently, but that was a big moment for me because I got to do both again. And then being able to witness Bam Sullivan win the tournament at Last Extravaganza and become the first Danny Havoc hardcore champion, that was a big moment for me, because Bam, again, was someone that I had known for a while, but we were both kind of separately, but in one place. We were kind of happy where we were, and then we both woke up and started like hitting the ground running, and it's paid off for all of the extricated like a lot, especially at places like H2O.
Right. Well, let's dive into H2O, because there's so much things that we can talk about H2O, and I've been trying to promote with a lot of people as well. We've had Matt Tremont on the podcast. I had the honor of talking to him. We talked about his career. We talked about H2O, what it meant to him. We've even had Dylan McKay on the podcast as well, which I think he's fantastic. So let's start with this. Like, let's start with, since you brought up the extravaganza, let's talk about Matt Tremont retiring first. So like, you were there, so let's talk a little bit about that, how that made you feel and all that.
As a moment, Matt retiring was like a lot for me, because it was my first deathmatch show main event had Matt Tremont in it.
Right.
When I was announcing, the first tournament I went to had Matt Tremont in it. So on that aspect, it was just like, wow, this is really a thing that's happening.
Right.
And I don't know if it's really picked up super well on IWTV, but the entire H2O roster was actually at ringside in one way or another for that match. We were all standing just outside of the light tubes, whether it be the entryway side, hard cam side, or either of the walls on either end. And Matt came out and forearmed a light tube. That was the first thing he did, was he came out, forearmed a light tube, and we all kind of just went, oh shit, and we were zeroed in like A to B.
Right.
The match itself was perfect. There's really no other way to explain it. IWTV's Match of the Year 2020 and Matt Tremont's retirement, the moment of the year 2020. People agree, and that is where I believe the statement I made after the show, when we kind of broken off into groups was that was where wrestling crosses wrestling and becomes art.
Right.
And that's what it was. There was only one fucking move in the entire match, and that's all you need sometimes.
Right. It was such
It
a
was
great thing.
surreal.
Yeah. So to like be there, I could only imagine, and like for all you guys, you know, what it meant to you guys personally, and even sitting here watching it, it was such a huge thing. And it's I'm telling you guys, like if you guys aren't following H2O, then you really need to start following H2O because it's up and coming. Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah.
Like no more asking nicely. Like from October to now, it's just been peak on every level. Every show outdoes the last one. The students are fucking amazing. There's no other word for it. So it's time to stop sleeping and starting to wake the fuck up with these things.
So have you been able to see like the training aspect of it with the students at all, or?
I've seen training. I have been on hand at multiple undiscovered events, and I have been at all of the pay your dues and opportunity knock shows.
Wow. Because I know when Dylan came on, he had talked about that there's 3 classes a week. And who was it? Frankie Picard we just had on as well. And he talked a little bit too. Fantastic.
I've seen Chuck Payne get in there and help with training. I've seen Devin Moore get in there and help out with training. I've seen all of these people looking to help the betterment of the next generation of professional wrestling.
It's so great. A lot of them are so young and like you already see the potential. Like to you, like personally, like who sticks out the most? Like who should people really looking out for if they're not following H2O?
If any of the students are listening to this, just because I don't mention them doesn't mean, you know, I don't think this way, but off the top of my head, Reed Walker, my God, that kid is insane. And his match with Lucky 13 is one of my favorite matches that I've ever seen. He had a match with Drew Blood the next week at Weekend at Sean's house. That was just so good. And he understands and he gets it. Austin Luke, Dylan McKay, Marcus Mathers, of course, the kids are absolutely on that level. And also Gigi Everson. Like Gigi, a lot of people don't understand it, but Gigi is going to be the future. And it'll come to be sooner than a lot of people expected.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I'm still like learning all the names. So one by one, hopefully within the future that I could slowly get them onto the podcast because I'd love to chat with a whole bunch of them. So, but even let's jump into tomorrow, right? So
Okay.
let's talk about this. So tomorrow's the heir to thy throne. So you want to explain to everybody better than me to explain it, that obviously this is going to be on IWTV tomorrow.
Yes, we are live. H2O Wrestling Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. This is a one-night, 12-student hybrid tournament. Excuse me. There is a hybrid championship, but that has no bearing on anything. To determine who the next entrant into Hardcore Kingdom 5 later this year is going to be. It is all students. Every student has a respective veteran in their corner as their cornerman. And it's going to be, I believe, 4 first-round matches, all triple threats, followed by 2 non-tournament matches and a final.
Wow. This is exciting. Which one are you looking forward the most?
By gimmick concept, the Don't Break Anything in the Kitchen match really interests me. And by matchup, it's got to be the don't get your fucking head kicked in, which is going to be Austin Luke, Dylan McKay, and Marcus Mathers.
Oh my goodness. This is going to be crazy. So are we going to see like crazy things, like people jumping off like the
Man, I hope so. It's been a while since I've had no shit moment, and I think it's time.
Are we expecting any surprises? Like,
I know 440 has been formally invited, so if they turn up, we'll see.
This has been building for a while. 440H.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten to the point where we're all just like, let's get this figured out and over with, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. We're tired. It's been a long year, and we're tired, and we're done. So we're going to see what happens with that. Expect standouts from people you wouldn't have expected standout performances from. Declan Grant having an opportunity to stand on his own as a singles competitor, which we actually saw a glimpse of that before the Iron match on Beyond's YouTube, because there was an H2O showcase that opened the live stream about 15 minutes before the hour-long match happened. Very, very good. And that was Declan Grant, Stretch, and Big Red Ryan Redfield. That was a really good triple threat match.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to this. I love the fact that we're getting like a vet working with a student. I think it's a really cool concept going on. Again, like I'm telling you, like H2O has not been disappointing. I mean, how bad can it be? I mean, it's like Matt Tremont students. Like,
it's going to be tremendous, and it's all because like we're offering something that a lot of indie companies don't, and that's a story.
Right.
Everything's done with a purpose, and it's refreshing sometimes to see on an independent level.
There better be some light tubes tomorrow. Am I going to see any light tubes? Because like I'm just obsessed with light tubes.
I'm honestly not sure, but it brings up a good point that a thing to remember with this tournament is it's a hybrid tournament.
Right.
So the wrestling comes first and the hardcore comes later. It has been made abundantly clear that hardcore is the level that we're operating at for this show. Mm-hmm. As much as light tubes get the pop, I think it's going to be the gimmicks and the matches themselves that are going to really get over here.
Absolutely. I love even when you know, a lot of wrestlers that are considered death match wrestlers, and they're just associated that way. And then people tend to forget that a lot of these wrestlers can actually wrestle, because in the end you start off with your basic training. So like even someone like Alex Colon, who we've had on the podcast, that I talked about it with him too, that I love watching him. I forgot which match it was, like in a technical match like last year, and I was like, I could sit here and really appreciate watching this. Yes, I love watching light tubes and all that fun barbed wire and glass and all that, but sure, I want to also see them get into technical matches. So this is what makes this exciting.
Deathmatch wrestling as opposed to death matches.
Right. I feel like sometimes like too much sometimes, you know, same spot.
I can agree with that. I can 100% agree.
So how did that come about? Like, also, like, I've had people that never seen deathmatch. I know me. I freaked out like the first time I saw a deathmatch. I wasn't ready. I tell the story how skewers messed me up the first time I ever saw, and I seen it at an indie show out in Long Island at SWA. It was with Johnny Malloy, and I actually was at the bar with him. I got to get Johnny Malloy on the podcast because we need to talk about this, because I talked about this with him at the bar. And I sat there and I go, do you know, 6 years ago, I was like, you did a show at SWA. I was like, and you took skewers, and I didn't know anything about deathmatch wrestling. And I literally got up and walked out because I was not prepared. I didn't know this existed.
There was one moment that skewers got me really good, that like visibly made me cringe, and it was a GCW match in Howl, and it was Masada and John Wayne Murdoch, and it was just the second Masada stabbed Murdoch with those things, the blood just started instantly pouring. I was like, no, those things are sharp as fuck.
Right.
Fuck away from me. The other thing that really fucked me up the first time I saw them were gusset plates.
Oh, yeah.
Mind you, I lived in a, for lack of a better term, a metropolitan area my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see them in their like natural use, so I couldn't be like, oh, it's a gusset plate. No idea what the fucking things were. And it was Danny Havoc and Masada with the fucking baseball bat 2x4 with gusset plates on it that legitimately caused a spray out of Masada's arm, and I about near lost my shit. I almost didn't watch wrestling after that. It's like, nope, that's enough. We've done everything we can. Accept your fate and move on. It's time for the next society to try to do everything better. That fucked me up for days. And then I ended up meeting both of those men, and I was like, oh, you're just psychopaths. Gotcha.
I don't know how people do it. Like, I could never. I give everybody credit, and now I'm a lot better, but I still cringe with a lot of things. I think the needles going in the mouth like drives me up the wall. I'm like, no.
Syringes I could do without completely.
Yeah.
I could never see a kendo stick again, and I'd be pretty fine about it, given what happened the last time I saw a kendo stick.
Oh, okay. So tell the story for people that don't know.
Okay. So this is probably going to be as like behind the curtain as I get. So
Okay.
I'm sure I'll get angry messages saying that I was just destroying the business.
Okay, we'll cut it clean
So
then.
the build was Brandon Kirk was being more of a monster, more of a monster, more of a monster until he finally got what he wanted, which was whatever he wanted. He was going to get a contract, piece of paper that said, cash this in at any time and you can have anything that you want in the company.
Right.
There was no caveat that it needed to be within reason. There was nothing. It was just anything that you want regarding this. Okay. So come to a point and Colin West asked me, how would you feel about taking a bump? And I was like, I'm going to make you look like shit. So it is your call 100%. I can't do that well. And then eventually it got to the point where it was going to be okay. Kirk was going to give me a discus lariat, take me out, put a chair over my head, and Colin was going to stop him before he swung another chair down on that chair. It goes on like this for a little bit, and then I get an email from Bryce Remsburg saying that Chikara is doing ring announcer tryouts. Same day as the Synergy show, earlier in the afternoon. So this would have been, get there at, noon or whatever time I had to be there, watch one of the Chikara Power Hours, and get on the road and at Synergy so I could go through what was going to happen before the show started. And I get a text from Colin West, and it says, just remember, if you're going to be here later than 6:15 was the time we opened doors, we got to think of something else. I was there at 6:15 exactly, and Kirk was taping up the kendo stick, and he said, how would you feel about it? And I said, let's do it. What's the worst that could happen?
Oh, no.
Well, turns out. So he wrestles Steve Mack, calls me into the ring. We're getting ready to do the thing. Cracks me in the head with the kendo stick, and I just kind of dropped. I didn't really bump. I just kind of went down. And I held my head, and the first thing I thought was, yeah, that's bleeding, I think.
Oh.
So the refs were Trooper Audubon and Boom Harden. And Boom slides into the ring freaking out, and Trooper is calm as he can be. And Kirk's cutting the promo over me, and he says, gushing blood was the phrase that he used. So I look up at Trooper, and I'm like, gushing? And turns out, yeah, gushing was the appropriate term. I still have the pictures of like the puddle of blood under the chair. And I guess what had happened was when the stick made contact, two pieces of the bamboo kind of split and pinched. That was it. I've had head wounds before. I've had stitches in my head before. I've had staples in my head before. I know when there's like a problem. Like I know if I say like, this doesn't feel right and it regards an open wound on my head, take me to the hospital.
Oh boy.
So everybody's fucking freaking out. They're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. I had just brought my one friend to her first professional wrestling show, and I told her something was going to happen, but I didn't want her to get freaked out, because if she freaked out, I was going to freak out about it, and then everything would have been gone.
Right.
So she was just like, did you know that was going to happen? I was like, nope, had no idea.
Oh.
None whatsoever. That man just assaulted me. To Kirk's credit, he came down when I was cleaning off, and he was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I can't believe it. I can't believe something like this happened. Are you good? Do you need anything? And I'm standing there. I'm fine. Stop asking. Did it look okay? Did everything go okay? And as he's leaving, he goes, shit, I forgot to tell you, dude, it was fucking awesome. There were kids crying and shit. And from that moment on, I was like, yo, okay, I'm good. This turned out wonderful.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, some kid came up to me in intermission and had me sign one of his WWE figures because it was one of his first shows, or it was his birthday or something. So I did that. And I borrowed a Sharpie from Kid Osborne. And I looked at him as soon as the kid left because he knew what was going on. And I was like, I'm going to ruin this kid's day in like 30 seconds.
Oh no. Oh my.
Turns out I did.
Oh no.
But it was mostly Brandon Kirk's fault. But that's why anytime someone tries to, either post something that Kirk does or like old footage from a match and they say like, oh, Brandon Kirk's unsafe, there are not many people I would trust to hit me in the head with a blunt object, and there are fewer people I would trust to do it twice.
All right.
So Kirk is A-okay in my book.
So you gonna take another one?
Not anytime soon. Please God, not. I will say the first thing that Connor Claxton said to me when I started working death matches was if I was going to work death matches, I needed to take a light tube shot.
Oh man.
And my only response to him was only if you're the one to do it. And we're still waiting.
Oh my.
That was 4 years, almost 5 years ago.
Oh wow. Well then. Be safe.
Those VOW shows, Lawless Wastelands, I tell you.
They something.
That was the show where everybody gathered and went to the combination strip club car wash after the show.
Oh my god.
I'm not kidding. And the even better part of that is the actual strip club part is built in like the shell of an old Pizza Hut.
Oh,
so like
really?
Remember growing up because you grew up in like the relative this area that I grew up in. But you'd go to one of those pizza places that literally just popped up out of nowhere, and they had the booths that had like the chopped vegetables and shit on it.
Right.
The stage was that with a hole cut in the middle of it.
Oh, jeez. So not
Lil Vegas in Shinston, West Virginia.
Oh boy. Mark that down, guys. Just
yeah, it's an adventure. Seriously,
there
the last time we went, the owner was so happy the wrestlers went there that he was just pouring us free drinks all night.
Oh wow!
Right as we were about to leave, KTB was like, it's a long drive to Jersey tomorrow. I might ask them if it's cool if I take a roadie. This man left with 212 cases. 212 cases because he was there with the wrestlers. Just here you go. It's like he was walking out of there with suitcases.
I love it. Let me go over to the chat because I see some people. Ray says Scotty. Good Cop, Bad Cop says love the mug. Mark says we all love Brandon here. I kind of want to take a light tube shot. And Matt Awesome says Scotty.
What up, everybody? No, I don't even know if I want to take a light tube shot. I think I just said that to kind of let Connor have his moment.
I'd like to give a light tube at somebody one day.
Yeah,
one day.
I'd like to swing a couple at a couple people. Sure.
I got a long list of people I'd like to hit with a light tube, not just one or two. No, I got a long list, pretty much. It's probably longer than my list of husbands. Let's be real here. So,
like Sicilian Alzheimer's, where you only remember the touches.
Oh man. Okay, so let's talk about like what are some of the challenges that you find like working commentary, ring announcing, anything, that you find.
The people who show up hours late, so the way I do it is on my cell phone, I have a notepad app. I write down everybody's information, and I am only off book on a per match process. Mm-hmm. Ready to go for the first match unless there's 6 or more people in it, and then while I'm either doing commentary or just getting ready to announce the next match, I'm memorizing the next match. Like I'm getting ready for match 2.
Right.
So if I have everybody's information except for one person, and that person shows up 5 minutes before their match, I got to go off either what I previously had for them, or I'm hitting up all my ring announcer friends like, yo, did you ever work with this guy? I need help.
Right. That's interesting. I know, like, I've talked to Shane Fair and Mike Falvo a little bit about this, that they said, with the notepad, that they always, like, ask, like, before the fact, if there's a certain way that you want to be ring announced. So,
always. There's certain people who, for example, the Rejects, when they're announced as a tag team, they don't do a combined weight, they do a combined height.
Right.
Little things like that are things that are important to take note of. I recently worked with Too Cold Scorpio, which was fucking amazing. And when I went to get his info, he told me where he was from, and he said, as far as everything else, you're the ring announcer. I know it's not your first rodeo. Do whatever. And I was just kind of like, that's the easiest shit I've ever had to deal with ever. Everyone gives me a little different bit of something.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Jake Christ, for the first match he did his whole intro. And then he was in another match soon after, and he told me, don't say anything else, Dayton, Ohio, Jake Christ. They heard the intro already. They know who I am. Like, cool.
Wow.
And that was the first time I ever thought about something like that. I was like, oh, no, he makes a good point there.
Right. That's cool. That's pretty interesting. Has there already been, like, any weird requests with that? Probably not, right?
Not off the top of my head.
You never had
Nothing
like that, what the fuck?
Oh, when I worked a charity show with the Rejects for a gentleman who had just gotten out of prison after being wrongfully convicted.
Oh, wow.
And this dude's whole family was kind of on a dais, for lack of a better explanation. They were in the crowd, but they were at entryway, and they were lifted slightly. And dude's grandmother was there holding the sign like, oh, we love you, we're glad you're home. And Bentley wanted me to come out and say they don't give a fuck about this dude or his grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. And I was walking around with that all day because our call time was insanely early because we had to do a whole bunch of pre-tapes. And I walked up to them. I was like, listen, for you guys to say this is one thing, you're heels. You're going to get me killed in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that.
Oh my God.
So they ended up doing something where they came out, took the sign, and ripped it. And I was like, okay, when are we going home? This is only the second match? Okay. All right.
Oh my. Mark X is in the chat. How is Chonk doing now?
He's good. Pain in the ass. They're fun. They fight like fucking homeless people, the two of them, Chonk and Batman. But yeah, they're sleeping on the bed together.
Aww.
Sometimes they annoy each other, sometimes they don't. So it's my first cat, but it's not my fiance's first cat. So
right.
She's kind of guiding, because like I'll freak out over anything if given the opportunity. So having her there to be like, no, this is normal cat behavior. I was like, okay, whatever you say.
We have a fan tweet from Good Cop Bad Cop. He loves doing these anagrams. He said, with Scotty Sariti being an anagram of atrophy sits, what atrophy in wrestling sits with you the worst?
The box cutter spot comes to mind. I feel like IWA Deep South as a whole is another good answer for that, because we let these people exist for a while and didn't really do much of anything about it.
Colin West is in the chat.
The box cutter spot.
Hi, Colin. Colin West. Hi, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Love Colin. Love him dearly. Okay, so you have new merch that just came out. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and where they can find it? Yeah.
I have t-shirts. God, that's a terrifying sentence to say. I hadn't always had, but I finally got comfortable with the idea of putting out money for merchandise. And I got pins from Pollyanna right before they ceased production, and trading cards that Derek from Unsanctioned had made for everybody. So bought a bunch of each, sold a bunch of each. A majority of them I just gave to people I care about, which I have no problem with. And then I hit up Corey from Double Hell at Struggle Suggestion to get the Batman shirt that I have on my web store finally printed. It's just a really goofy picture of my cat with like black metal text over it. It says my last name, Sariti, and then it says one fall fuckery and ultra violence. And he told me about this idea he had to start, for lack of a better explanation, pro wrestling tees for death matches.
That's so cool. The links below, guys, if you want to support.
Deathmatchworldwide.com.
Yeah.
And I was so behind the idea that the first day we had talked about it, I was messaging people, asking them what their interest would be in having shirts available on a web store, and connecting them with Corey so he could have a fucking awesome launch with a bunch of people. And then he ended up getting things like Zona 23 and this, that, and the third. And I know certain people were talking to him about opening one that I had talked to. I spoke to a majority of the H2O roster about it. Yeah, I'm really excited. 2 shirts available. The Black Flag parody One Fall shirt, which is what my pins were, because at heart, I'm just a kid looking for the best hardcore concert. And then the One Fall Fuckery Ultra Violence pins, because I know my cat is going to be more over than I am.
All that wholesome content.
Okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'll put Chonk on a shirt next. I don't care. I'll whore my cats out.
Now you can start making Instagrams for them and.
Oh, it's in the process.
Oh, see?
I'm gonna have it designed by a professional. I'm gonna let one of those Instagram influencers run my cat's fucking Instagram page. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be a millionaire.
I love it. Isaac's in the chat. Hi, Isaac.
What's up, Isaac?
What's going on? I love asking about people's road trips. Do you have one of your great stories for us?
Christ. Let's see. I've road tripped with Riley Madison. I've road tripped with Casanova Valentine, Kyle the Beast, Connor Claxton. Oh, okay. I have a good one. So, the VOW show in June of 2018, me and Devin Moore are talking. And he says, "What are you doing next week?" "Not much of anything." "Cool. Come to Massachusetts with us." Okay. About 2 days before the trip, I find out the show's actually in Maine.
Wow.
It's a big difference. So
how did that happen?
Well, now we have to fucking... Okay, so meet at my house at this time.
Okay.
He, Drew Blood, and Nick Gage sat in traffic for 3 hours, getting from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to my house in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. That is an hour-and-a-half trip regularly. They sat in an hour-and-a-half of traffic.
Oh, my goodness.
We then proceed to sit in bumper-to-bumper traffic literally every fucking state we're in. Every single state, because the show was on a Friday and we left in the afternoon because we're idiots.
Oh.
It took us 9 hours to get to this fucking show.
Oh, my God.
9 fucking hours. There are 13 people in a National Guard armory, excuse me. God knows where in Maine. I can't even remember what city it's in. 9 fucking hours to drive there. Now, mind you, by the time we get to the venue, my gas light is on. And I have no idea where the nearest gas station is because there's literally nothing but trees in this one building.
Oh, my.
It was supposed to be a tournament, and by the time we got there, the tournament was completely scrapped, and it was just singles death matches.
Oh, wow.
It was just... It was a lot.
Oh, man.
Massachusetts.
Oh.
Drew Blood still won't accept bookings in Maine because of it.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Oof. Well, that's fun.
I'd take that drive again. Just
yeah.
That was a lot of traffic to be. You know, there are too many people just because of how many fucking cars there were in the state of Connecticut alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're good to take a break.
I think it's easier to go the other way, obviously, but oof, damn. So when you're not ring announcing, doing commentary, and all that fun stuff, what do you like to do?
Play video games and watch television.
Ooh, what's the video game of choice?
I was in the process of starting Spider-Man Miles Morales because I really liked the PS4 Spider-Man game to a point where it was the first game I remember that wasn't an RPG, which is just a force of habit at this point, that I was actually going back and trying to finish everything. I played Binding of Isaac a lot. Me and my friend Adam Bueller got into that game together, and it's a randomized Legend of Zelda game, essentially. So every time you play it's a new layout.
Right.
I get so fucking annoyed at that game, to the point where I had pulled an all-nighter playing it at one point, and I had Adam's mask with me, and I pointed to the basket. I went, "Are you just gonna sit there, or are you gonna fucking help? Like, do something." And then I won my next run, so I was like, "Okay, thank you. Now I'm less angry."
Oh my god! And what's the TV show of choice? What's the one that like you binge and?
The one I'm always finding myself going back to is Deadwood.
Okay.
I watch that several times a year because A, I love Westerns, and B, I love the way the show was written and how it was written.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, what the creator would do is there'd be a room full of dudes with a laptop, and the creator would grab a pillow, lay down in the middle of the floor, and recite the entire episode, every character's lines, everything, while laying on the floor. And by the time he was done, they had an episode. I'm rewatching The Sopranos. I'm going through Oz.
I love Oz. Oz is great.
Trying to think what like the newest thing I started the His Dark Materials TV series because I was always a fan of the books, and I'm a big fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. So I was like, oh, let me see what this is all about. And I'm about 2 or 3 episodes into that. Yeah, and then just, sketch comedy shows from back in the day, dumb cartoons from back in the day.
All the good stuff. Love it. Love it.
Anything that like I have a YouTube playlist of every Rocky and Bullwinkle episode, shit like that. It's like comfort food essentially. Whenever I need a break, I can just throw on an episode of that or something and keep it on in the background and do my own thing.
I feel like we all have that like 1 or 2 shows that you just like leave on in the background, and it's like you do your thing, but it's just like nice, that comfort feeling just to have to like sit and watch something.
Like having the memory of watching it when you were younger.
It's just great. I've been going back, even like HBO's Max has been given a lot. Like I started going back to like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and it's so funny like watching it
Johnny
now.
Quest is on, man. Like fucking awesome.
It's so like you watch these shows and it's so dated. Right. And it's like, wow, like when we were kids, we're like, okay, like you learned the lessons and things like that. And then, here we are now. It's like, I can't.
Now you're an adult and you're just here for the bright flashing lights and like 15 minutes at a time of peace and quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm coming down to like my final 2 questions. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat for Scotty. Again, I'm sure he'll be glad to answer anything that you guys have. One of my questions is, what is the end goal here?
Teach commentary, teach ring announcing, enhance the future. For sure.
Cool. That's cool. Okay. So this one, like I usually like ask everybody, what's a piece of advice that you would give someone wanting to get into the business?
Learn from the right people. If you have the right teacher, if you have the right mentor, if you're coming up in the right locker rooms, it's not going to be too much work. If you constantly find yourself surrounded by negativity, take a breather, take a few steps back, assess your situation. That's essentially what I did, and H2O and Unsanctioned have been great homes to me. When you're in a new locker room, listen, and then listen harder. And when you go places, when you start traveling, if that's something you see yourself wanting to do, keep any area you walk into in a building clean. That way people are that much more inclined to bring you back, and maintain good relationships. I had been talking to Hybrid since Hybrid shut down, and now I'm doing commentary on their comeback because I was part of the team when it stopped. So just maintaining good relationships can do more for you than anything.
It's really, really exciting.
I'm excited, yeah.
Mark Axe is in the chat. What's one show you're most excited to see Mania weekend? It's actually a good question.
Unsanctioned Pro. Fueled by Spite is the name of the show, because that's how we live our lives every day. And I'm very, very excited to see what a lot of these guys do with the platform. Everett Cross, finally having a Mania Week moment after A, knowing him for so long, and B, knowing how long he's been working is really cool to me. Planet Death is going to be really cool. And hopefully I will be working in some proponent with IWTV on Family Reunion and No Peace Underground and Synergy as well, because that's really the goal there.
Awesome. A lot of great shows coming up that weekend. I'm like, oh, is it April yet? There's a lot of
I
great
know, for real.
shows. That's what I say, guys. Support independent wrestling. It's so important. It's, oh man, it's such a great thing. And look at all the options that we definitely have. So Scotty, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you and all that fun stuff.
Twitter is the most active. That's at SC Sariti, first initial, middle initial, last name. Same thing for Instagram. I'm just not as active on there. Find my shirts on Deathmatch Worldwide. Watch H2O Unsanctioned Pro on IWTV. If you don't have IWTV, use promo code HUSTLE for 5 free days. Heir to Thy Throne tournament tomorrow from H2O. I will be in the booth and possibly ring announcing some things. I'm not sure yet. And Unsanctioned Pro Hardcore Cup coming soon.
Oh, so much to look forward to, guys. Definitely go check it out. If you guys aren't part of the IWTV, definitely go subscribe to it. That's great. Even that he gave you a code there. Like, look at, just try it, right? Like,
5
if you're,
free days.
there's nothing wrong. I'm telling you, you're gonna find so many great promotions on there, and then all the lives, and it's a great library, guys. Definitely check it out if you haven't subscribed
John's
yet.
coming back broadcasting something soon. H2O's live as often as possible. Unsanctioned Pro's got stuff coming soon. Plus, we're going to have the live show as part of the collective. Like, there's so much going on.
Yeah, there's so much. Definitely check it out, guys. So guys, we're going to wrap that up. Actually, I'm going to drop it now. I have Reed Bentley coming on Monday, so make sure you guys are following the No Holds Barred Network on Twitter for all the updates about that. I love it. And again, a lot of people that Scotty brought up today, they've been on the No Holds Barred Network too. Kid Osborne's been on here, Frankie Picard, we've had Brandon Kirk on. So definitely go check out those interviews if you haven't seen it before. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Make sure you guys support independent wrestling as much as you can. So Scotty, thank you again so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and for the future. And then we'll get a picture together so we could like post it up for everybody the next time I see you. Hopefully maybe I'll see you at Synergy. I'm going to get my butt down to H2O. I promise. I've just been waiting. I've been a little nervous with a lot of, between COVID and everything, but I will definitely, I promise I'm definitely going to get down there because it's been a bucket list for me, especially with all the people. So anyway, guys, thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.